Hi, my name is Keith Knuth, and I'm going to give a demonstration on how to add an API using the Infor OS ION API gateway. Now, ION is a component service of the Infor operating service, or Infor OS, and ION acts as a system integration platform. ION includes an API gateway with those services, and an API gateway acts as a single secure channel for applications to access all Infor and even third-party SOAP web services and RESTful APIs. Okay, let's take a look at how to add an API into the gateway. I've navigated to the gateway's administrative interface. I've done that through the app switcher. In the upper left-hand corner, I've clicked on the Infor ION API icon. The first page that it brings you to is this Available APIs menu. I can slide out that left-hand menu to get it out of the way. And if you're a Cloud Suite customer with Infor, you'll have all of your Infor API suites already provisioned for you. You can see that the source is Infor provisioned underneath each one of them. They've been set up for you. But if you want to add a new API, you can click on the Add button. And you have two choices. You can create an API from scratch, or you can select from a template. The templates are common Infor applications that you may want to set up yourself, or even third parties like AWS, Marketo, Salesforce, Twilio, Twitter, Vertex, and more. But let's say I want to create an API from scratch that is not available as a template. I'll click the Create New button, and I need to fill out a few quick fields here. First is my application name. In this case, the third-party API that I want to use is from a company called Neutrino. You can look them up on the internet. They provide kind of general web application APIs. The context I'll give it is a version number. I'll just call it V1. The suite name are Neutrino APIs, and the description is general. There you go. And then I can choose an icon. I can upload my own, or I can choose one predetermined here. I'll just select that one in that color. Good, I've got the general description done. Now I need to add at least one target endpoint. And this is where I'm telling the API gateway where the actual destination API URL is. And so the vendor has given me that information. And I'll give it a quick description. And then you can see below here that a public-facing proxy endpoint URL has been being built for me. This is my Cloud Suite URL. This is my tenant name. And this is a section of the URL showing me where all of my custom APIs are going to be stored. I have the V1. That's where I used the context on the previous page. And now I can do the final part, and I'll just type in APIs. And that's now going to be the endpoint that any application that I develop or give to another developer and say, hey, hit this API in my gateway to access these services, this is the URL that I'm going to give them. I have two options for securing that URL. OAuth 2 is the standard. You do have anonymous as well that is typically not used unless you're in a testing phase. So leave it at OAuth 2. And then the target endpoint security is what the Neutrino web service requires for security. I've looked up on their documentation site. They use an API key method. There's many other methods that the API gateway supports, including from Amazon, Google, OAuth 1 and OAuth 2, Salesforce, and others. But this particular vendor uses a common method called an API key method. In this method, it requires you to fill in what those keys are. And so the first key is a user ID in this vendor's case. And then the second key is called API key. Okay, now that I have all of that, I can save my definition. And you can see back on the available APIs and on my Neutrino API suite definition, everything has been set up, everything's been saved. The status is live now. The last thing I may want to do is provide some documentation for this. And by documentation, since this is a modern RESTful API, the API gateway allows many forms of documentation to be added. The default is PDF, but I'd rather go with Swagger or an open API specification that's much more dynamic and modern. And this vendor that I'm working with provides that API specification in a JSON format, so I'll just pop in that URL, hit save. And now you can see that the API suite has been updated. I can click on documentation, and the API specification renders below. So I can see all of the services available. I come all the way down to the URL info service. I can see all the information about this particular API, including examples of how to call it and what the response will be. I can even click the try it out button and put in a URL like google.com and execute a query against that URL. Now it's doing live using the credentials I provided, the two keys that I provided, calling that web service live and returning a response. I got a 200 code back, which is great, and my response here telling me all about that URL. So I know that the API has been added successfully, the suite has been added successfully, and it's ready to be used by my applications. If I jump back to my available APIs page, and I choose under the filter non-Infor suites, I'll see now that that Neutrino API is available here to be used. And that's all you need to do to add a new API into the ION API gateway. For more information on the Infor OS API gateway, you can look in the ION API Gateway Administration Guide, and you can also turn to campus.infor.com for recorded and live training.